welcome to Rare Disease Month.
We
support rare.
I am well.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
My name is Victoria Jackson and I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
Hi, I am rare.
I am rare.
I'm Brandy Leader from Houston, Texas, and I'm a rare disease warrior.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
Hi everyone, welcome to Rare Disease Month.
We
support rare.
I am well.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
My name is Victoria Jackson and I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
Hi, I am rare.
I am rare.
I'm Brandy Leader from Houston, Texas, and I'm a rare disease warrior.
I am rare.
I am rare.
I am rare.
Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Oren, and I'll be providing technical support on behalf of Zoom and Rocket Pharma. Please note that you are encouraged to use the Q&A function to submit questions and the chat function to connect with fellow attendees. Finally, during the live Q&A portion of today's webinar, all attendees will be promoted to panelists. This will give attendees access to join us on camera and to unmute yourselves to use, if you choose to ask a question. And now I would like to introduce Kinnari Patel, President and Chief Operating Officer of Rocket Pharma. Kinnari, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Oren, for the introductions. And thank you so much for more than 70 of you that are joining today. We're really excited that you've been with us for the entire month of celebrations. We want to celebrate Rare Disease Day 2021 in a very creative path where we're having 4 different sessions throughout the month. So this is the last of the 4th session. And why do we do this? When you saw this amazing video in the beginning of the little kids talking about I am rare and patients and family members talking about it, what does it mean to be rare? Next slide, please. When somebody has a rare disease and they're considered themselves rare, that means in the US, this disease only impacts less than 200,000 people living in the US at the time. So that's not a lot of patients, right? So why are we doing so much? It's because there are over 7,000 rare diseases identified to date. And what this means is about 1 in 10 of individuals that you may know is impacted by a rare disease. That's a lot of people. 30 million Americans and over 300 million people around the world have a rare disease. And unfortunately, most of these diseases do not have a treatment option. So while, like the iceberg on the right says, we have gotten few hundred therapies approved to market and about 1,000 plus with an orphan drug designations, only 5% of the therapies for these 7,000 diseases have been approved to date. So there's a long way for us to work together to make a difference for the community as a whole. Wouldn't it be great if we have a disease-free world where people don't have to struggle because they have a disease where they don't know how to be diagnosed and what they have and what the signs and symptoms mean? Wouldn't it be great if they understood when they are diagnosed with the right disease, what it means for them, and have treatment options that are best suitable for them, and have support system that can help them and their family that are going through an extremely difficult time in their life to really come together and get the support they need to get past this unfortunate news that they've just received that they're diagnosed or their loved one is diagnosed with a rare disease. So the reason Rocket Pharma does the Rare Disease Day events every year is to raise awareness. If we can raise awareness with healthcare providers to help with the earlier diagnosis, if we can raise awareness to scientists, like the scientists, amazing scientists that we have working at Rocket, or what we can do to make more therapies available to patients. And if we can provide support to patients and families that are struggling with the diseases that they're diagnosed with, and provide them a support system or a way to move forward in a community setting, which makes hopefully things a little bit better and a little bit brighter. That's what we want to do. So Rocket Pharma is doing Rare Disease Day. We're focused on one patient at a time, one disease at a time to make a difference. And hopefully if all of us have this mandate in thinking about what we can each do, I really believe we can move the mountains and we can make this iceberg really become something that is non-existent. So next slide, please. What we've done to date is we've taken place every Friday an event on different topics. We were so honored, thanks to our very own Dr. Gayatri Rao, to introduce her to Abby Myers. Abby Myers is a mom from Connecticut. In the 1980s, she found out that her son had a rare disease and a treatment option was not available or accessible for her. She really moved mountains. When I say that, I mean, she brought the entire community within US together, as well as the Congress, to get the Orphan Drug Act passed in the US. And then later on, it's something that has happened around the world. You know, Europe, Japan, all over the world, there's Orphan Drug Acts or similar legislations that enable more research and more science to be focused on helping patients with rare diseases. We also did next session on power of genetic testing. How do I contemplate, should I get a genetic testing? What does it mean? What's the cost coverage? And you as a patient, when do you want to know? And what does it mean for you emotionally to know that you're diagnosed with a devastating disease or with a rare disease, and what are the treatment options? So there was a great session talking about that. And the session we had last week, moderated by Marty, was really about talking about being treated with a gene therapy. As you know, there are few gene therapy products approved worldwide to date, but we're in the 2020s where a curative therapeutic option may be available, but most of these programs are in the clinic, right? So when a patient thinks about, do I want to enroll in a clinical trial? What does that mean for me? From everything from logistics, time, energy, benefit, risk. So our experts from around the world of Dr. Julian Sevilla from Spain, Dr. Claire Booth from UK, and Dr. Ami Shah from Stanford University, California, all talked about their perspectives of how they help families get through decision-making of clinical trial involvement or not, and what makes sense for them. And today, I'm really, really excited that we have our amazing parents and family members and advocates that have really made a difference in their communities. They're going to talk about how when they were diagnosed or they had a loved one diagnosed with a rare disease and there was no advocacy group, how they became resourceful and partnered with different individuals, including NORD, National Organization for Rare Diseases, in order to put together a foundation that can help other family members going through a similar struggle. So I'm really excited about the panel for today. All of these panels are available on Rocket Pharmaceuticals YouTube channel. So if you've missed any of these sessions, please take a look at it. Next slide, please. This just gives you a pictorial image of all of the sessions we've had to date. One other point I will make that I haven't yet is we have on the left bottom, Ben Patterson. He was one of the jazz musicians that joined us and played amazing music for us. And the reason we have this is we're actually at Rocket Pharmaceuticals founded by our CEO, who not only happens to be a scientist and a physician, he also happens to be a Grammy-nominated musician. And the philosophy he has is we need to treat a person as a whole, meaning let's have art, science, and medicine come together to help a patient and families through the struggles. So we do infuse a lot of arts and music in everything we do on a day-to-day basis, and we want to showcase that as part of the activities we do at Rocket Pharma. So we did start the month off with live music from on a Zoom, of course, by Ben, and we're going to end today's session by having live music from a personal performance by Dr. Gaurav Shah, his band Falu, and his amazing musician Deep. Next slide, please. What else are we doing as a team? We're trying to light up for Rare. 2 years ago, we started lighting up and working with Empire State Building to light up the Empire State Building, which was a beacon of hope and support that patients felt. The outpouring of positive response we got from around the world saying, for that one evening, for that one night, to see that image of Empire State changing lights made them feel that they're not alone in their struggles. and there is hope that people care and want to help them. So what we've done is we've taken this a step further and further. Last year, we were fortunate enough to have NASDAQ Towers also change and recognize Rare Disease Day, as you see the picture of the rocket team on the right. And this year, we've partnered with NORD as well as our amazing team to light up even more monuments. So next slide, please. So this year, we've taken things a bit global. So of course, we'll have the signature Empire State Building and NASDAQ Towers joining us. Along with that, we'll have various bridges in New York City, as well as in Boston, about 20 buildings in Chicago and Niagara Falls. But not only are we doing this in the US, we have monuments around UK that are going to light up for Rare Disease Day, as well as monuments in Madrid, Spain. So if you have any ideas, we're still 2 days away from February 28th, when all of these buildings and structures will be changing their colors to recognize Rare Disease Day awareness and the importance of spreading the word of the unmet medical need that still exists in this space. Please contact us. Next slide, please. So how do we make all of this happen? It doesn't take just, it's one thing to have a nice thought, but it really takes a huge team, a passionate team. And one of the things that makes me just so excited about working at Rocket is we have an amazingly brilliant team of passionate individuals that want to make a difference in rare diseases. So these are some of the team members that I want to recognize because they've gone above and beyond to help us make all of this possible. I also want to add in 2 more names, Steve and Chuck, that have also lit up our Cranberry facility, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for our team members at Rocket Pharma that made this all possible. I also want to recognize RTW Charitable Foundation because they've been a great partner with us in the last 3 years to make Rare Disease Day events happen. And Deirdre, Nate, and Stephanie for supporting us through this passion of ours of spreading awareness and education. Next slide, please. The other thing that I'm really, really excited to do, and I know you guys may have heard me talk about this last few years, is this year we're launching Rocket Foundation. Rocket Foundation is going to be a nonprofit organization that's going to focus on really 4 key things: making awareness for rare diseases and patients and families impacted by it be increased. So things like Rare Disease Day event, educational information on clinical trials, and other things be taken up by Rocket Foundation. We're also going to try to help the next generation of leaders, next generation of talented, amazing young kids become leaders of industry. So we're going to be spending time and resources to make science, technology, engineering become more prominent and infuse the importance of science with the next generation. So really excited about that. And the other thing is we also want to help out the communities that we live in. So we're making a huge efforts towards helping the communities where Rocket and its team members and its impacted partners are at, and we want to make a difference and support our community events. So more things to come. I can't wait to tell you more about it once we launch this officially. Thank you, Ellie, and others that have helped support this endeavor become a reality, a dream become a reality. Next slide, please. So today, let me introduce you to our amazing moderator. We're so fortunate that NORD has partnered with us and Debbie to join us. Next slide, please. Debbie is a director of the National Organization for Rare Diseases. She's been passionate for making a difference in patient advocacy and health education for over 2 decades. And the work she's done really expanded and has impacted numerous lives and numerous patient advocacy groups. So we're very honored that she's going to be moderating us. With this, Debbie, may I hand this off to you and this amazing session you have?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kanari, and to Rocket for inviting me to moderate. I loved seeing the buildings lit up, and we'll never forget when the Empire State Building was lit up for the first time for Rare Disease Day, how magnificent that looks. And now, with all these monuments around the world, it's just a wonderful contribution. And I really also love that you had Abby Myers, the founder of NORD, speak to open up your webinar series for Rare Disease Day. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm the Director of Membership, like Kanari mentioned, and I'll be moderating this special segment of the last Rare Disease Celebration webinar. So just quick housekeeping. While we are talking and engaging with our rare panel of advocates and leaders, If you want to ask a question, if you're in the Zoom platform watching this, you can use the Q&A function in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom. You may be watching this live streamed on Facebook or YouTube, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to see those questions come through. So we'll take questions in the Zoom, and that will be towards the end of this session. And the session is also being recorded by event organizers and streamed on YouTube. So I'm happy to pop the link into the chat in a second. Just to introduce you to NORD, if you're not familiar, NORD is nearly 40 years old. We're an independent nonprofit organization leading the fight to improve the lives of rare disease patients and families. And we have been doing this since the Orphan Drug Act was passed in 1983. And currently we support patients, caregivers, organizations. Our goals are to accelerate research, provide education, disseminate information, drive public policy. We also have a very robust patient support program. The theme for this year's Rare Disease Day is health equity, and these are not just token words or lip service. Personally, and I'll just tell my story really quick, I'm a second-generation Mexican-American, and I have a sister living with a rare disease. And what's more, when she was diagnosed in 1998, she was living in a small rural town in Texas with a population of 8,000. And people in her town, they knew her age, they knew she was young, they knew that her Mexican heritage, and we believed that there was a delay in diagnosis based upon her not being taken seriously. And that delay nearly killed her. Once she was diagnosed, there were no treatments. And then a treatment came to market and was passed for her disease. That treatment saved her life. What I learned now, decades later, from her diagnosis was that drugs aren't developed out of goodwill or solidarity. There's a lot of goodwill that goes into it, but that there needs to be incentives for that. And that is the work that NORD did in advancing the Orphan Drug Act. And on top of that, patient advocates drive research. They're fighting for their lives. And so I didn't know that there was an organization called Pulmonary Hypertension Association, and that because of their work, this drug, in part because of their work, this drug came to pass and saved her life. And I didn't know that this nonprofit, Pulmonary Hypertension Association, that the patients came together because of NORD. So ultimately, NORD helped patients find each other. Patients fought tooth and nail and worked really hard to develop and advance research and fundraise for research. Drugs were passed. My sister is alive. And I say all of that because what we do is saving lives. My sister, other parents, siblings, and people living with rare diseases. And it's just one story out of 30 million Americans living with rare diseases. And so when we talk about the theme, go from caring for one, whether that's you with a disease or your loved one, to caring for a community, we are saving lives. So this Rare Disease Day, use the hashtag #ShowYourStripes. Visit rarediseases.org to get involved, share your story. So important. And NORD has a program called Rare Launch, and that is helping people start nonprofits like the Pulmonary Hypertension Association. And ultimately, a lot of the goal for these organizations, the mission is to help find treatments and cures for patients to live longer, better lives. So I am so excited to bring our panelists who are patient and caregiver advocates. If they can come on screen, we're going to get started. So I'm going to introduce, we have 3 out of our 4 panelists. Kim was unable to attend, unfortunately, but definitely the work that Amy and others are doing we're all working together for rare diseases to start nonprofits and to help communities coalesce. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, Amy Atkinson, Jenny Shea, and Alejandra Watson, who are all leaders in the rare disease community, helping to start nonprofits. So I'd like to start with Amy. Amy, can you share a brief story of how you are personally affected by a rare disease and how you became an advocate?
Hi, I'm Amy, and I became a part of Danon disease in 2012 when my daughter was diagnosed with it. I was lucky enough to find the Danon support group in 2018. They helped me through a lot of everything, and I can never repay them for everything that they helped me through that year. We kind of just want to give a background of Kim, if that's okay. Kim founded the Danon Disease Support Group in 2009. She has multiple family members with Danon disease, which includes sisters, brothers, her mom, aunts, uncles, cousins, as well as herself and her 2 boys. The support group was grown for her to find additional family members. Kim has given us a message that she says that she created the special bond of friendships with each of the families and always tries to be available to answer questions or offer support. She herself has Danon and fights right alongside of the others in the group. She wanted to let you all know that she's grateful and thankful for each of you, and the support group has been a place to come to in order to learn and share stories without feeling hopeless. She always says to keep the faith and hope high because someday we'll beat this. And now we have to natural history study in a clinical trial. She wanted to be here today, but she's facing some challenges herself at this time with Danon. But she says you're welcome to reach out to her if anyone has questions for her.
Thanks, Amy. And next, I will turn it over to Jenny. Jenny, how did you get involved?
Sure. Thank you, Debbie and Rocket for hosting this Rare Disease Day. I know with the COVID pandemic, it's been tough to connect. So really just grateful and wanted to shout out to the group because I know this is a big effort behind the scenes. I guess just a little bit of background around my story. I kind of fell into the Danon community. Just by way of, I should preface my story is really a little bit of a windy road, but I have really great access to care, and I've been one of the very fortunate ones. I live in the tri-state area, so you can imagine that there's a lot of good access and high quality care. I've also worked in the healthcare industry for nearly 20 years, so navigating the complexity of the system has been something that I've been fortunate to have under my belt. But the reason I say that is because I don't think everybody in the rare disease community really is fortunate enough to have that, right? So my diagnosis actually came because I was going through some health issues, and I actually found out about my genetic deletion that is what causes Danon disease through some genetic testing. And it was very random and completely unrelated. I wasn't looking for Danon. And I was diagnosed, and there wasn't that much information out there. And so I was really, again, fortunate enough to get diagnosed, and I had an amazing genetic counselor who helped me navigate the first couple of months through what this meant for me. So, to give a little bit of background, just again, around access, and I think, Debbie, to your point around health equity, I had a genetic counselor. She told me to go see a cardiologist. I took my daughter, who at the time was very young, to a pediatric cardiologist. And then I was fortunate enough to get her in front of a pediatric geneticist, one of 2 in the state. And he happens to be 15 minutes from my home. So I think, the powers that be, that my daughter is, she got one of my good X chromosomes, as I like to jokingly say. So she does not have Danon, and I'm asymptomatic. And so for the last couple of years, I really ignored the fact that I'm part of this community. And as I watched my daughter grow, I kind of took a hard look at myself and said, well, do I want to be around for this? And what does this mean? There's so little information out there. And if you Google, which I recommend never Googling any health conditions unless you really have to. But if you Google Danon disease, it's pretty terrifying at first. And so I chose to ignore it, rightly or wrongly so. And then, in the past 2-3-ish years, I really started to think hard about it, and reached out to Dr. Taylor at University of Colorado, and he put me in touch with Kim. So that was, the first part of my connection to the community and just being able to learn more about Danon disease. But also, I think with rare disease, it's been really, I've again been very fortunate that there are folks like Dr. Taylor out there who are willing to speak with individuals like myself and just give me more of, you know, his expertise. So as I said, like my journey is a little bit different than probably most people. And I think there's a question for me around, you know, what's my role in all of this? And I think for me, a large part of this is not just about living with Danon, but it's about the access and the diagnosis and the treatment and the information that's out there. So again, just a little bit of background around my story and why it's a little bit more unique, but also something that has really spurred me to work with Amy and Kim on the Danon Foundation, which has been in the works. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, so I feel fortunate, and I am trying to just take it one day at a time and just figure out, you know, what does this rare disease really mean for me and my family and the rest of the Danon community.
Thanks, Jenny. I think your experience is what we hope for. We hope people have access and are able to get diagnosed, and we thank you definitely for being involved, because it's a good story, and every journey is valuable. So thank you for your work and your contributions. So next we have Alejandra Watson. Alejandra, how are you personally affected by rare disease, and how did you become an advocate?
Hi, good morning to everyone. This is very personal to me, of course, because I have a son who was born with pyruvate kinase deficiency. Pyruvate kinase deficiency is a very weird blood disorder. And when my son was born, we had no idea what was going on. He had to go to ICU. It was a very difficult time for us when he was born. And over the course of his life, he is now 16 years old. And he requires blood transfusions, and he requires several surgeries in the past. I decided to, well, when he was born and he was actually diagnosed that he was 3 months old, one of the doctors told us that he was not going to live more than 3 months. I was committed to live not 3 months, but a long life and healthy life, the best I could. So I tried to search, and like Jenny was saying, never Google. And if you're going to Google something, make sure that is truth. It's a lot of information about different things. Pyruvate kinase deficiency, when you Google it, it doesn't have all the information. And most of the information, it was about dogs or cats or even horses. Fortunately, I found other people. My first communication with other people around the world was literally going online and say, is anybody there with pyruvate kinase deficiency? So I met another person in the Netherlands, and she was very young. So we started to communicate each other. We find another family, and we were connecting families like in different parts of the world, which it's not very common. So like, okay, we are in the United States. It has to be a lot of people in the United States, not just like a few people here and there. So as you can hear, I'm Mexican. My husband is American. The first question from the doctors is like, are you guys relatives? Are you anyway? And I was like, do you see my skin color? My husband is blonde. So it was kind of like, it's no connection. But, you know, my son was the lucky one in between millions of people to get this disease. So in 2009, I'm going to move forward, 2009. It was a child, a 15, 16-year-old kid, who decided to find out if it was more people in this world with pyruvate kinase deficiency. So he started a Facebook page, and then he let it go. So this person that I met in the Netherlands and we find him, and we start to take care of the whole Facebook page. So over the years, we've been trying to connect people, and that these people know that they are not alone. Because one of the first things that it happens to you is that when you go through all of these, you feel alone. And you're not the only person who suffers this, but your whole family, yourself, that the husband, your kids, everyone is suffering for what you are going through. And a lot of times you don't realize that until something extraordinary happens. And it makes you step back and say, this is not okay. I need to do something. And I've been trying to do something for a long time. And right now we are ready to launch our nonprofit organization too.
Wonderful, Alejandra. That actually leads into the next question that I have for this panel. And Alejandra, I can start with you on this one. You said a couple of things already, and also there was a question that came in about Dr. Google. So maybe there's some element here. Why is it important for you, Alejandra, to be involved in forming a nonprofit for pyruvate kinase deficiency?
Well, because pyruvate kinase deficiency is a rare disease that not a lot of doctors and not a lot of people knows about it. So it's more than what just you can read in Dr. Google. And in Dr. Google just say, oh, it's just you can have this problem or this, but they minimize so much the impact of pyruvate kinase deficiency in every single person. It's more than just to, oh, you can have a larger spleen or getting blood transfusions. It goes so beyond that what you can imagine. A lot of people, they don't know. A lot of doctors, they don't know. So we are committed to get to those doctors, to those families that they don't understand, that they don't know what is going on, but they need the help. And we are committed to help all these people and all these doctors to understand what is pyruvate kinase deficiency and help these families to find the valid resources and truthful resources that they can rely on. Doctors that they know what they are doing, doctors that they know what is pyruvate kinase deficiency, and we are going to try to facilitate that information for the doctors.
That's so wonderful, Alejandra. Thank you for that. I wonder, Amy and Jenny, is the motivation similar? Is there anything else that you would say is motivating you to start this nonprofit and start this organization?
Honestly, mine was a little bit different because my daughter with the Danon disease, she's the only one known in our state with it. I was relying on doctors to help me, anything. And like I said, I didn't find the support group until 2018. And my daughter lost her fight with Danon disease in 2018. So it was one of those that a little too late to find the support group. And I wish that's where my dedication is now, is to help the people who need the support and to help them find that group.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about your daughter. And I think it's incredible what you're doing for other family members so that this doesn't happen. And it sounds like that is the value of an organization, is to get the medical information, to bring the community together, to get support. So really appreciate, Amy, that you're doing this in memory of your daughter and for the community at large. Jenny, would you say your motivation is in your, being there for your daughter?
Yeah, Debbie, I mean, I think I echo what Alejandra and Amy said. Obviously, my situation is different. I think from a community standpoint and what Kim has done with the Facebook group for Danon, there's about 300 members of that group right now, which includes caregivers, friends, and Danon patients as well. And I think that's a starting point. But I think in the rare disease space, and this is a relatively new space for me, I think it's so important to have a foundation or an organization that almost unfortunately legitimizes the disease. I think for Danon specifically, for example, it typically gets dismissed or simplified to a cardiac disease, and it's not. It's multisystemic and it's complicated, and there's so many questions that are still open. And from my perspective, having a foundation that stands out and becomes this formal, I guess, aggregator of community research, support, advocacy, and education and awareness, all those things, it really brings to light the bigger issues and tries to, one of our goals is going to be, to provide a single source of truth that is, consumable, to Alejandra's point. Like, you don't want to be Dr. Google. Everything out there is very heavy medical literature. So we're really trying to, make this accessible. And I think that's, again, the big theme, at least from a foundation standpoint, and making sure that people can find us. As Amy said, you know, she didn't find the group for a while, and I was fortunate enough just through Dr. Taylor to hear about the Facebook group. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but in my opinion, unfortunately, I think this is, I call it legitimizing, but there's probably a better word for it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it's important. You said it's a lot of work. So you found other patients, you found a community, but then you wanted to take the next step to becoming formal. A formal nonprofit gives you a lot of benefits, recognition, legitimacy. It allows you to fundraise large scale to advance research and to do the kind of things that you all want to do, which is to coalesce the medical community, to have validated information online, so that people aren't going to old, outdated information or scary information or information that's just not ethically accurate or ethically or accurate. So how did you get your Facebook group involved and form a foundation? How did you get involved? I'll throw that one at Jenny.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I had nothing to do with the support group. I just became a member, but in terms of the foundation, it's again about community, right? I'm fortunate to have met Amy and Kim, who already became, they're my Danon experts. I am, again, diagnosed but asymptomatic. I don't live with Danon disease per se. And then, so I don't know what it is. I don't know what the day-to-day life is like. So I really get that information from the community and understand more about that, the lifestyle and the impact socially, economically, et cetera, through the community and especially Kim and Amy. That's number one. Number two is, from a foundation standpoint, again, there are so many resources out there like NORD, that can support the foundation being launched. And so I think the initial conversations that we've been fortunate to have with you, Debbie, and team have been really helpful to just understand better. And, in the rare disease community, again, small community, and I happen to have a colleague that founded his own organization years ago. And so I just stole his brain for a few days and here and there, and have been, again, lucky enough to have that. And then just from an administrative standpoint, there's a lot that goes into starting an organization and a foundation, the legal aspects, the financial, et cetera. And so, again, drawing from resources, I have a friend that just started her own nonprofit foundation to launch mobile clinics in the South. And she walked me through everything that I needed to do from registering within the state to getting my paperwork done, et cetera. And so I was able to be almost handheld through this process, which again, I chalk it up to just being very fortunate to having these couple of resources. So I guess long story short, I would, recommend that if anybody's out there who's thinking about this, find the helpers, find the people that have gone through this. Don't reinvent the wheel, because it is complicated and it can be daunting at times. But I think the thing that I learned was, you have to start somewhere. So just get going, and then you'll figure it out as you go, because it's important to understand these things and do it for the community.
That's so well said. I mean, reinventing the wheel when time is so important for drug development and bringing patients together. That's really good advice. I want to ask Amy, in your involvement and working with Kim, you all have different roles. So what are your roles in this this newly formed foundation, and how are you working together?
Once the website gets kicked off, then I'll be more in charge of fundraising and assisting on that side, because that's kind of where I specialize in my business and everything on that direction, as well as helping with the support side, backing up Kim, like today where she's out, and letting her deal with what she needs to, and being there to support Kim and Jenny in any aspect I can. I lived with Danon disease for 11.5 years, and luckily myself and my daughter have come back negative of it, but it's you know, it's still a rare disease. I want to know the answers of it. You know.
Thank you. So we'll pivot to Alejandra. Alejandra, we've been working closely with NORD's Rare Launch program, and we started before the pandemic. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you've been working to start a nonprofit?
Yeah, well, of course, before it started the pandemic, we were forming, and I've been trying for many years with one person or another one to start a nonprofit. Realistically, it's very difficult, especially when you don't have the knowledge. So when you don't have the knowledge, you cannot find the head or the legs or the arms, and it's so difficult. How can you put the head where it goes? We know where it goes, right, as an adult, but realistically, when you are in this world of a nonprofit, it's really difficult. So we had it a PFTT, I believe it's called. So that last October 2019, which we NOR was wonderful, helping us to bring all kind of patients to the FDI to participate and tell them how we live with pyruvate kinase deficiency. After that meeting, moving forward, NOR was helping us and told us, we can help. We can help you to find where the head goes. Where can you put your arms and your legs? Honestly, without the NOR help, I don't know where I would be. I started to find other people, and a lot of people get into the train, what I call, and a lot of times due to the pandemic, different reasons that whatever reason they have, they couldn't continue. This is a long process and it's involved a lot. It's a lot of passion, and sometimes the passion it's so strong, but it's also draining. So the more you work, it's really draining, and your body, and sometimes you're not physically there to keep doing it. But of course, the passion keeps moving you, but it's so many factors that affects, and how can you get a foundation? Especially in my case, we've been like for many years working and trying to get this with a Facebook group, and then trying to move into a foundation. I say it hasn't been easy. I'm so thankful for North and the Real Launch that it really helped us to understand how can we start it, how can we move forward, getting all this information. Of course, you have to put a lot of your work, but they are there to help us, make us understand how can we do it and how can we help in the best possible way the community. Because we are here for the community. I'm not for the money. I'm not for fame. I'm not for anything. Sometimes I like to be more like in the background that nobody sees me. But this is something that we need. We need to help the new generations, the old generations, all generations across the United States and around the world. I'm hoping that later in life we will have different foundations that we can work in different parts of the world and work together towards the same objective. But so right now, we need it right now here in the United States, because it's where I live, it's where my son was born, is where we had it to start. So you need to start from the seed, where it comes, and plant the seed and start it to grow it. It's how I see it.
Thanks, Alejandra. It's really important what you stressed about how time sensitive, how important it is to have this nonprofit, and how there are different people involved, and that is, nonprofits are messy. It involves lots of personalities and but people unify for the common goal. And when you have a nonprofit, you have a mission. The mission is bigger than anybody. It really is the collective good. And the other thing you said that I really like is, you're not being paid to do this. You're doing this out of your own time when you're not working in a pandemic, managing your disease, managing your children if you're a caregiver. And so it really is a labor of love. And so I'm really grateful for all of you, all of our panelists, and anybody involved in rare disease advocacy, because the big picture of the mission is so important, and you save lives. Yeah, I thank you on behalf of my own sister. because it is the work that you do that is saving people who are currently in the trenches, living in a rare disease and in a pandemic, especially. So thank you for that. So I will ask then to Jenny and Amy about starting this nonprofit. What did you learn in getting involved that could actually help individuals living with their rare disease?
So personally for me, getting involved helped me understand the disease better, as well as, understanding that I wasn't alone. As you're working with doctors, as you're working, trying everything to figure out what's going on with your child, you feel so alone. So that was nice to get into a community. And even now when people are putting in and saying, okay, what do I do? How do I help? The answers are finally coming.
Thank you. And Jenny, anything to add to that?
I would say the one thing that I've really learned, and I echo Amy's point, which is you learn so much from everyone's experience, right? I think with Danon disease, it presents itself in such a wide-ranging, severity of symptoms and different types of symptoms. And so as I was learning about it, you can read all the medical literature if you want to, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a rare disease and there's very little information out there. I think, again, going back to the point of trying to distill a rare disease like Danon into, a definition even is very difficult, and to make it understandable so that when somebody first gets diagnosed, or a loved one gets diagnosed, I think that's that first moment where you have like panic, and then you want to know more, you don't want to Google, but you do. And I think that's one of the things that I've found, especially in this space, that it's so important to make sure that the information is not just comprehensive, but also understandable. And I think it can be completely overwhelming. And so from my perspective, I really hope that it's a daunting task, and I'm not going to make it, say it's easy. It's one of our biggest challenges, I think, as a foundation going forward, and we're still in the very infant stages. But I think it is about sharing the information so that when somebody gets diagnosed, their immediate reaction isn't panic, but there's a whole community out there, and there's information out there that I can understand, and I don't need a medical degree to understand it. And so, I think that's my at least initial reaction to what I've learned and where I've seen the community really be supportive, but then also where I'm hoping that we as a foundation can take things.
That's really important. Access to the information. If you get diagnosed, you go to Dr. Google, you get information that's outdated or information that's just not digestible, that you just medically, the literacy is too high. You have to be a researcher to get it. So having a nonprofit is really helpful for that. There was a question that came in earlier on that I think, Alejandra, you might be able to speak to this. The person asked vulnerably, and thinking about Jonathan, your son, that they said 3 months to live, and now he's in his teenage years. Were there times that you weren't sure if you'd make it? This was the question. And the person said, I feel that way sometimes. Where do you go from there when you don't have hope?
Yeah, we had a lot of times that would think that he was not going to make it. The most difficult part, like Amy said before or earlier, is the feeling of to be alone, that you don't know where to go, that you ask the doctors and they tell everything is going to be fine, but inside of you as a mom, you know that it's not okay. And they keep telling you that, everything is going to be so fine. And then you see your son and they tell you that he has a crisis, and where the bone marrow stops to be working, and you are so worried, like, what is going to happen next? What should I do? Should I just step back and let him do it? But at the same time, as a mom or as a caregiver or even as a patient yourself, if you have the strength to do it, but your family around you comes like, what can we do? Because the fear of to lose the person that you love the most, it's so great. And you don't know where to turn around and where to look for that information. So then you turn your whole world upside down and it's like, I'm going to make happen that my son, my husband, whatever, is going to be okay. So you start to Google, you go with one doctor, then you go with another one. But the most important thing is when you go to the community and you tell them, this is what is happening. And this community tells you, it happens to us, it's okay. You'll be fine. We'll be praying for you if you believe in God. And if you don't believe in God, if you believe in the universe, it's okay. Or if you believe in the flower, and they say, I'm going to make sure that this flower is going to grow for your son to be okay. That is the greatest thing, and it gives you strength. When you find out that you are not totally alone in this world, it gives you the strength to keep going. As a parent, I can tell you that I'm not afraid anymore. I took it. I tried to teach my son the best I could. I still doing research on my own. And when I don't understand something, I go to the doctor and I ask that doctor, because some other thing that I don't think that we mention very often is that when a doctor writes something about the disease, we say that, oh my God, so now who is going to translate it for me? Because it's like a totally different language. So it's like, how is going to translate? But if we know that we can go to that doctor and shoot him an email like, please, I don't understand what you were saying. Can you give me a call? Or how can we communicate to each other for me to understand what you were saying? It is very valid. And most of the time, you are going to get a response from them because they are approachable people. We just have to ask. We just have to get to them. But we as a human, we don't think, right? Our work kind of closed down, and it's like, I don't know what else to do. So to me, the two important thing is the community that is helping you, that you can talk to them because they understand you. They are not going to judge you. They're not going to criticize your feelings because they went through already. And number two, to talk to the doctor who, right, any research or whatever they are doing, you can approach them. They will understand and they will get back to you, because also it's like a win-win for you as a parent or a caregiver or patient, and for the doctor as well, because the doctor wants to know more about why you are living to help more people, and also you get the help from him. So that way you can take it to your real doctor or the doctor that you see every day, and you get all the information that you need to help yourself or your patients or whoever you are talking.
Thanks, Alejandra. That's really helpful. So I guess we have about 5 minutes left. I want to ask Amy and Jenny, what's your hope for the future with the Danon Foundation?
I think my biggest hope is awareness. It's going to take a while for a cure. We are aware of that, but it's awareness and getting, the only way of diagnose with Danon disease is the genetic testing. So it's getting people to know it's available, and what to look for.
Great. Jenny?
Yes, I mean, I think aspirationally it is about a cure, and I'm so grateful for folks like the Rocket team who are working on a therapy, and to me that's the aspirational North Star, right? But I also think there's a lot in between, and as Amy said, awareness, education, information. For me, this is a genetic disease, so there's implications that go beyond, the person that lives with Danon. So, I think about my kids, my parents, and the folks that probably don't either are living with it and don't know about it, or are fortunate enough to not have it. And I think just even thinking through all of the implications around that is really complex. And I think there's a lot to navigate. And to the point about Alejandra was making around physicians and having that support, as Amy and Kim and I were talking about content for our website, we were thinking, what are, I ask them, who are the doctors that you need to see when you have Danon? And the list is a mile long. And to even just think about the complexity of navigating all of that, and being an advocate for yourself or your children or your loved one is really daunting. So, I think aside from the North Star, there are things that in the interim that I would really like to do. Again, we're in our infant stages. So again, this is probably all aspirational, but at some point, really helping our community navigate the disease and figuring out what it means, not just from a medical perspective, but I think COVID has really brought to light a number of questions that we have as a community about what does this mean for us, our risk and the vaccines and things like that, not to get off topic, but I think there are things that do come up that, we really do want to be able to address and support our community going forward. But for me, aspirationally, it's to do whatever I can to really look for treatments and, hopefully one day a cure. But I'm not a medical professional. It's really up to the experts, but, whatever we can do as a foundation to support that, I'm really behind that as well.
I love your aspirational goals, and I love everything you just shared, both you and Amy, about the Danon Foundation's mission and work. Awareness raising, early diagnosis, accurate diagnosis, appropriate medical education and information, really giving people peace of mind and better choices, better options, and better outcomes for living with their disease. I think that's what all rare disease communities want. We are almost at the hour, so I believe I will turn it over to Latika to come on so we can wrap up with any Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Wow, what an amazing panel. I've talked to you all over the past year on so many different topics, and you are an inspiration from NORD to the Danon Foundation to the PKD support group. You're an inspiration, and I have referred a lot of families over to your pages because they are newly diagnosed families. They're frightened, they don't know where to go, and they've never heard of these diseases before their diagnosis. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. I've actually been texted a couple of additional questions I thought the group here could handle. One was, and maybe this is more directed towards Alejandra, but there are teens living with PKD, and with COVID, they feel really alone. What would you say to them?
This is a very difficult topic, even for me, because I saw a lot of patients with pyruvate kinase deficiency to be very alone, anyways, in their lives, because pyruvate kinase deficiency affects also sometimes physically the color of your skin and makes them very jaundiced. And a lot of people, they tend to kind of keep them away from them, or they feel like, why do I have this color? And they don't want to share a lot. But from my son, I wanted to tell, I learned that he's very honest. He tells what he has, what he goes through, for people to understand, and people accepting him in that way. So he tries to make people be empathic instead of to rejecting them. So he's been working. So it's a lot of now online things that he's been doing, but also at the same time, he's been always trying to keep his mind occupied in positive things. He's a very positive person. He is always like, yeah, we're going to do this. I don't care what the people thinks about me. I just go for it. And I think that for teenagers, it's important to embrace who they are, to try to speak for themselves. It's okay. It's not right or wrong. This word is, everybody, we are like, oh, you are wrong. No, it's not right or wrong in this word. all the wrong things is that what the society wants us to be wrong, but the reality is not right or wrong. And especially for teenagers, if we are now an inclusive world, we should accept that other peoples are different than us. And we also, as a patient, or my son as a patient, needs to understand, I say, I need to accept that people doesn't want to talk to me, and it's okay. It doesn't going to hurt me, because I may be saying to that person, I probably don't want to hang out with you, and it's okay. To respect everybody's position and respect who we are is the most important thing. That is what I would say to parents. Encourage your teenagers to do what they feel they wanted to do, to support those little dreams of every day, because that's what is going to help them to be the people that we want them to be.
That's beautiful. It really comes down to the power of self-advocacy and teaching your children self-advocacy, and I love that. And I do see that you do that very well with your son, so congratulations. You know, there are people who've contacted me from all across the world, from Europe, from Asia, Eurasia. There's people from South America who are affected by Danon. This question is to Amy and Jenny. How can support groups work with NORD or drug manufacturers to have a broader reach across the globe?
I guess I can start. So I think, you know, the power of social media and the power of community online, especially in a post-pandemic world, is something that has been beneficial for the rare disease community. I think it doesn't matter where you live, you know, the connections in the community are still there. You know, from a foundation standpoint, I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of how we're going to connect globally, but I know it's a conversation that we've had, and, you know, rare disease does not discriminate. So whether you live in Australia, Europe, or wherever, Latika, to your point about connecting with patients all over the world, I think at the end of the day, we're all living with this disease, and we're trying to figure it out. So I think the connection online through organizations like NORD or our foundation or support groups are all things that I see as sort of the current solution. And then, you know, I think as we grow as a foundation, and this is probably, again, more aspirational, you know, I'd love to see us connect with other parts of the world. And I know in conversations that we've had with Rocket about the therapy and everything, we always ask on behalf of our community, you know, what's next? Like, how are we going to get access globally? And what does that look like? What is, you know, the path forward? And I think, again, we've been very fortunate to work with folks like the Rocket team, because there is a common goal. And I think that it's been very collaborative and very, you know, just it's been, we're just very fortunate, the fact that we have this rare disease and that there's a company out there working on a therapy. So, you know, I think more to come, but, you know, the world is more interconnected, especially in a post-pandemic world. So and if there's a light at the end of this tunnel, that might be it.
Wonderful. Alejandra, I know it's relevant for you too, because, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, I've come across a family, a mom who lives in Germany. They're of Turkish background. They're immigrants who are living there. And she just found out her 2 young children are diagnosed with PKD. So how do you reach people across the pond?
Well, through the Facebook page, we have an international support group, and we also, a lot of other countries, they have their own Facebook pages to help with specific countries. We are, the international is more like a general situation, because we understand that each country or each region, it may have a different ways to approach the doctors or to approach the healthcare. So we can, all we can do as an international group is to give them the basics of what we know and what is being written by doctors or the science or researchers, and they can take it to their own doctor to get the best things. I think it's a great idea, like for each country or each independent group or a town, I will say country, to have their own Facebook page, because that will just integrate the legislation or the procedures that you need to follow. Like, for example, here in the United States, we can get Medicaid. In Australia, probably they can get a different type of care, or that they can get some support from the government. I'm not sure, but you need to have that in perspective, that the people that has been the longer time creating the Facebook page for each country, it will help the process. Is how I think that it's the most approachable way to help more people, to have like one place that it can be international, again, more information as you can, and each country to help in a lot of different ways. It's always going to be a need to help. And also in international, it's great that we can have, for example, people from Germany, and we can connect with our people in Germany, and they can help them to go through the process that they already went through. Or like United Kingdom, they have their own Facebook page, and they have already other people helping. And so it's a great communication to have all together and collaborate with all of them to make sure that the needs, as much as we can, to be met. Not always happens because, like we've been saying, this is a rare disease, and so it's not that simple, and it's not that easy to find all the information that you wanted. You wanted to have a cure, and probably you don't have it right now. But the most that we can do is just to hope and to try to help the people that they need it right now.
Beautifully said. Now, I know that a lot of our attendees have been promoted to panelists, so we can actually see them. It's really interactive. Are there any more questions that have come in from the community?
Hi, this is Gayatri. Is it okay if I ask a quick question?
Sure, Gayatri.
First, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to do this incredible discussion. It was really very candid, and really appreciate these perspectives. I know that it's so daunting for family members who've gotten a tough diagnosis. There's no support group, and they're looking to start something, but it's really hard. I mean, this is your story, right? So if families don't have the bandwidth to do like a full-fledged, like a 501c3 group, and you could do one thing, what do you think would be sort of helpful? That if you can't, you want to create something, you want to connect with other folks, what in your experience do you think, if you have just a little bit of bandwidth and willingness to do something, what would be that one thing you could do?
You know, I'll step in on this one, because I'm going to go back to Kim's Facebook page. You know, that was a lifesaver for me. And Facebook is easy to make a page on. It's, you know, you can set your dynamic, you can set your parameters, and you can make it private. And that's where I would go first, is social media.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
I had a quick question. I know, Debbie, when you told me about PAH, I mean, one of the first work that I did in rare disease space was PAH, working on Tasigna and Afinitor for those investigations. And we did a one-day offsite with the patient groups to understand what's important to them day to day before designing our clinical studies. And Alejandra, I think in 2017, our Jonathan, our CMO, and myself had a wonderful time to spend with you and some of the other patients in UK to learn about the parameters of what's clinically relevant, right? So we can design an appropriate clinical study. What else could we do as a company to keep the patients in mind? Because as you think about the aspirational goal of having a treatment option or a curative option, even more so, how could we design studies or our development plan in a better way to make sure your views are embedded in there? Are there other tips or advice that you have for us?
I think that to bring community together for you as a pharmaceutical or PH, it is so important to bring some community together. And doctors to learn from each other, where we can ask questions to the doctors, and the doctors at the same time they can ask questions to the patients, and that is a reciprocal information that it may be very helpful and very beneficial for both sides. That is something that I've been thinking for so many years. How can we approach it? How can you guys as a pharmaceutical can be approachable, and how can you guys approach us? So I think that collaborating with a nonprofit organization that is helping these patients, it can bring more help to both sides than just one. So if you approach the nonprofits or even administrators or founders of a Facebook page, they can and get it together, a gather of people with I'm saying pyrobikinase deficiency because this is what my son has, but any kind of weird disease, and you guys, it is so beneficial for both of you. You can learn more from them and the needs and put it together. You guys have an astronomical and wonderful team of so many people that they can just listening to us and put their thoughts together and then put it in place for everybody to have a better treatment.
That's right. That's right, Alejandra. I think it's very, very important to integrate, the perspectives of the patients into not only the trial, but every single thing that we do as a manufacturer, because you're working on behalf of the patient essentially, and you all are truly our inspiration. I know I tell you that every time I talk to you, but you really are our inspiration. Now, there's another question that came in. How can people get in touch with you? And I know that there are websites coming soon, but Amy and Jenny and Alejandra, would you like to walk people through how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah. So our biggest one is the Danon Disease Support Group on Facebook. Obviously, the slide's showing Kim's email right now. She's great and answers everything. The other one is info@danonfoundation.org is another email that you can get in touch with all of us at. And we are always checking everything out.
Actually, Amy, if I could just jump in there, it's actually contact@danonfoundation.org, but I'll throw it into the chat.
Yeah, for myself right now, it also can have through the people with pyrobikinase deficiency of my emails right there. In the next couple of weeks, we are hoping our website will be up and running, and you can also contact us through the website.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. A special shout out to Debbie for being an amazing moderator for the panel, and for Amy, Alejandra, and Jenny, who work and have taken time out of their day to share information. So thank you so much. You're truly an inspiration. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Debbie, for moderating. That's great.
So lucky to work with all of you. And this session is so exciting, and I can't wait to look at what you've done in the last 3 weeks. I'm actually going to put the YouTube in the chat because I think everyone should check it out.
Great. Oren, would you mind going to the next slide, please? All right. Last but not least, I am so excited. I have the pleasure of introducing our CEO of Rocket Pharma, Gaurav Shah. He is a man of many talents, as you will see in a few minutes. Not only is he our CEO, but he's also a Grammy-nominated musician, so we have a special treat for you all. Gaurav, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, first of all, it's been a phenomenal month, and thank you to all the panelists today. What insightful stories and experiences for all of us to learn from. Truly inspiring in the deepest sense. Also, thank you to the Rocket team and RTW Charitable Foundation for 4 weeks of unbelievable effort and a great outcome in celebrating and turning rare disease from just a day into a whole month, culminating in the lighting of beautiful monuments around the world, literally around the world, in 2 days. So I think we've sort of made a new step, and we've achieved a new milestone in integrating the dialogue between understanding these diseases, companies who are working on these diseases like Rocket, and patients and advocacy groups and other organizations. So congratulations on a great month. So we've always believed that gene therapy, when it comes to rare disease, can address the most fundamental issues of our core physical beings, which is the DNA. Gene therapy is for the DNA, and our physical beings are basically developments of DNA stories. So gene therapy can be curative for the body. In the same way, we've always believed that music and the arts can be healing for the soul and the spirit. There is no body versus soul versus mind, right? It's all sort of an integrated entity, one being. In the same way, there is no science and art. Art is science. Science can be art. And I think that the philosophy by which most people in Rocket have been approaching disease is that we are looking for and seeking curative gene therapies, but also cures for the whole being. What is it that motivates us day to day, and how can we integrate those dialogues into one? So it's interesting, because in about 12 minutes, I'm going to be getting on a business call, and I'm about to read you some lyrics that are very different. I'm going to type them into just wrote this while we were doing this. We're going to do 2 songs today. One is called Nadi Re Kinare, and this is a Hindi song. I've written the lyrics here. I'll read the translation. Nadi Re Kinare Ubhi Chola Khai, Apare Bina Maro Choma Sobito Jai. It says, on the banks of the river, she swings back and forth. She says, this whole monsoon season has passed by without you at my side. It goes on to say that I've written your name on my bangles and I keep reading it over and over again in the moonlight. So we're creating a space here of openness and longing, and wistfulness is the word. And we draw from that space, call it the right side of the brain. We bring it into the left side when we go into our business meetings and when we battle rare disease with gene therapy every day. So I'm now going to switch to the other platform. Let's hope this works. Can you hear me?
We can.
Very good. So this is Falu.
Hi, everyone.
This is Deep.
Hello, how are you?
Falu will play her voice, and Deep will play the tabla, which are an old, ancient set of percussion instruments that come from India and have their own language.
Yes.
So.
And this is the harmonium.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know.
So I've typed the lyrics up there so you can follow along, and we celebrate Rare Disease Month together.
Gaurav, special shout out to my friend Bill Freeman who's watching today. Hi Bill.
Now, I've got to send you the other song. So in 2 days, we're lighting up for rare disease. And this next song is truly a celebratory song about lighting up. And it's a Sufi song. Sufi poetry is all about bridging up and down, bridging the divine and the secular, bridging the body and the soul. This is Sufi music. It's the essence of Sufi music. And this song is asking for protection from the universe. And also it's about a specific paragraph that you can read in this translation I just sent you, is specifically about lighting up lamps, 4 lamps, 5 lamps, 6 lamps, one by one, to increase awareness and to increase protection, harmony, and love. So this is a fun song to end the month. And as you can see, my friend Deep here is, haven't heard you in so long. We haven't played live in so long. It's we're having a lot of fun.
Oh, Lal Meri, oh Lal Meri, Lal Meri,
Sometimes when we shake our head, it's because it's like, wow, I can't believe you just did that. You shake your head.
Oh, Lal Meri, but rakhiyo khala jhule lal re, zindagi da se badha saki shabas kalandar, damadam mast kalandar, Ali dam dam mein andar, damadam mast kalandar, Ali dam dam mein andar. Oh, Lal Meri, oh, Lal Meri. हिंद शिंद पीड़ा तेरी नौबत बाजे, हिंद शिंद पीड़ा तेरी नौबत बाजे, नाम वाली मेरा पार लगा झूले लाल रे, नाम वाली बेड़ा Hello. Ah.
Oh, yes, brother.
That was brilliant. Oh my God. Falu, phenomenal. Girl and Deep, you guys are just absolutely magical. I miss seeing you guys live in concert. Thank you so much for doing this. This was so inspirational and a great way to celebrate the entire Rare Disease Month. Really, really, really appreciate it. Guys, if you want to learn more about their music and what they do and where they perform, hopefully post-COVID-19 will start soon. It'll be followmusic.com. Follow is also instrumental in getting Empire State to be lit up this year. We needed somebody famous with power, and she has over 30,000+ or 50,000 followers. So we were able to secure that because of her support. So thank you for that as well. Team, thank you, all the panelists, all of the amazing individuals that have been part of making this a reality this month, as well as Nord for partnering with us and RTW Foundation. We love having you part of this. We're going to continue doing this bigger and better and hopefully provide more educational information to patients around the world. Every single year we'll do better. So give us your feedback on what you liked and what you'd want us to do next year. And don't forget, February 28th, look up at the sky, whether you're in Philadelphia and looking at the Ben Franklin Bridge and the Lincoln Center, Financial Center for where the Eagles play, or if you're in New York City, go check out the Times Square area to see NASDAQ towers and Empire State light up, as well as Niagara Falls and places in UK and Madrid. Light it up, let's go, it'll be fun. Thank you for everyone. And those of you in Cranberry, we're getting Cranberry Building light up as well, thanks to our wonderful team there with Adrian, Sahar, Chuck, and Steve. So come check it out. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And thank you, Falu, once again, and Deep and Gaurav for playing for us. Bye, guys. Thank you.